Hello everyone. Welcome to Software Testing Expert Talk series. Today we have a guest who is a software test consultant dealing specially in test automation engineering, having more than 20 years of experience in total in IT industry so far. She has started her career as a software engineer in year 2000 and have went through various experience such as developing solutions and working with the end users of company products. She has also led the implementation and support team until she has discovered her interest in test automation in the year 2011. And since then, she is passionate about test automation. I'll not take more time in introducing our guest for today's show. Hi, Katya. Welcome to our show.
Hi, Ajay. Happy to be here. Thanks for this introduction.
Guys, today Katya will take us through Testim, which is an automated functional software testing tool available in the market, and demonstrate us automating queue scenarios on tutorialsinja.com. Over to you, Katya.
Thank you, Ajay. So I'm sharing my screen. Let me know when you see it.
I can see that.
Perfect. Okay, so I'd like to show you one of the automation tools that I came across and our company is using for the last year. The tool is called Testim. And today we will take a look at this tool to see what it allows us. And we'll actually create several scenarios based on this sample site called Tutorials Ninja. And we are going to record and enhance several scenarios. Let's first take a look at the manual flows. So our first flow will be to register a user. So we are going to go to this page, fill in the fields here, and then we're going to click on this checkbox and continue, click on continue, and make sure that we have some indication that the registration completed. This will be our first scenario. The second scenario will be to log in to make sure that the user is able to log in. So we'll come to this screen, we'll enter the email, we'll enter the password, we will click on login and make sure that the user was logged in.
Okay.
Then we will, to show you the next scenario, I should probably log in. So let's assume that I'm logging in like this user. Let's ignore this pop-ups because they don't really, bother us as part of the flow. So our third scenario will be to search for the iPhone. Click on the search button and make sure that the iPhone appears. And then we'll do a similar search for something else, 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐿 in this example. And we'll make sure that the 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐿 appears. And our fifth flow, hope we will be able to cover all of them at this session. The last flow will be to log out and make sure that we were successfully logged out. This is the indication that should appear on the screen. Okay, so these are the flows. Any questions so far?
No. I'm pretty much clear with the flows now.
So, okay, so let's start. So how do we even start? First, we want to launch browser using some basic URL. So let's take this URL, copy it, and we'll go to Testim, and we will create a new test. Okay, currently we have a new test with the first step already being part of this step. And this is actually what Testim provides out of the box. If we define a default URL to our application, in this case, this is what we define because this is our company URL. But in this case, we will replace it just for an example. And so once we have it set, each new test will start with this setup step, which will open the browser and navigate to this URL. This is just to save us adding the same step to each and every test. So they already saved this part for us. So if we now click on the record button, we will see that the browser will open with this URL, and whatever we will do in the application will be recorded, and we will see it. Let's start. Okay, so we clicked on the record button, the site was opened. So now we want to go on with our first scenario with the registration part. So we will click here. We'll click register, and as you can see, steps are being added to our test. Okay, so for example, we will provide here, let's say we want to register John Smith, and his email is John something, let's say some email.com, and his telephone is mandatory, so let's say 123, just as a matter of example. Let's say we set his password to be 12345, password confirmation 12345, and then we have to click here. We have to click here, and basically that's it in terms of the flow. Now we want to stop the recording because this is what we want our test to do. We want to perform these steps. So I'm pausing it. The only thing that we need to add now is a validation. Validation is not something that we can record, right? We can't click on something. So we need to provide some specify the validation that we want to add. So in the end of the test, or basically anywhere in the test, between any steps, you can add any other steps. So currently we want to add in the end validation. If we click on this plus sign, it changes to 3 icons. This icon is if we want to add some recorded steps from this point. This M icon, this is Testim's logo. It means that it will provide us a list of predefined steps that come out of the box with Testim. And it is divided or categorized into several parts here. We have validations, we have different weights here. We can add actions if we want. So there's lots here. So let's say in our case, what we want to validate is that your account has been created, element appears on the screen. Okay, so we'll go down here to the validations and we will choose the appropriate validation. In this case, we want to make sure that a certain element is visible. Okay, so we will click here and it will ask us to choose the element. So now if I hover over any element in the web, this way I can select it. Okay, so in our case, I want to select this element for validation, and that's it. Okay, so the validation was added. Now this step will validate this element. I want to pause here for a second and to say that unlike many other automation tools where each element should be specified, meaning each element, by element I mean any UI element, any text, any layout, any button, and so on. With Testim, we didn't do it, right? We created a whole scenario. We can now play it, and it's ready. So we didn't waste any time on that. How does it work? Testim has their own embedded smart locators mechanism, where we selected the element. They actually analyze the whole DOM, everything that is below this screen, the whole HTML tree. And if we go to this icon here, each step has a properties icon, which can show us any properties which is related to a certain step. So we can go here and see what is our element. So we can highlight it in the application, okay, and then we'll see this highlighted. So just if you want to see which element we've created, we can reassign it if we are not sure we chose a correct element. We can improve it, and we can also view the locators. So if you click on view the locators, we can actually see the properties of all element of this particular element and all of its parents based on the DOM. Okay, so in this case, our element has a text, your account has been whatever it is created, and we can replace it by parameters here. We can change it. There is a tag, there is index, and there are many other elements. And if you notice, there are asterisks here, which means what weight Testim gives to any property. Why is it good? In case one of these properties will be changed in the application, the test will not be broken. It will still be able to recognize the element because other properties of the same element will still remain. Okay, so this is one of their very unique, I'd say, achievements of Testim in working with elements, because it saves us a lot of maintenance. When something changes in the application, we usually, with some other tools, we will need to go and adjust the test, provide a different element locator, and so on. Here, we had several examples where our applications had some changes in some of the elements, and tests just kept working. So this is one of the main advantages of working with these tools that I found very useful.
Awesome.
Okay,
yeah.
So this is now we have a test. Okay, it contains it consists of different steps. Each step is what we performed with the application, and now we can actually play it and see what's happening.
Okay.
So when we play it, it starts from the beginning. It opened the browser with the URL. It clicked on this triangle, and it tried to go to the register. But something happened here. We can see that these 3 steps passed. They appear with the green indication, and now we are here, and the step is trying to do something, and eventually it will probably fail, because usually it should take much less time. Something is wrong here. Okay, so we clicked on this triangle, and then we clicked on the register button. But actually, if we open this window, we can see that there was no register button here. Okay,
right.
So why was it the case? Because we were logged in, right? We were logged in the application, and so register option was not available. So let's try to manually log out now and see if it solves the problem. And then we will think how we can improve our flow so that it will work no matter whether we are logged in to the application or logged out.
Fine.
Okay. Okay, so now we should be back to the same state where we was when we started the recording. So I'll play again. And now let's see how it works. Okay, so now it was able to register, and you can see the John Smith and the email and the phone and the password were entered, and the checkbox was clicked, continue was clicked, and now we got a warning that this email address is already registered. Makes sense, right? Because we've already registered this user. We can't do it twice.
Right.
Okay. This is a great example, and you can see that the test passed, which is not good, because actually we would expect that the test would fail, right? Why did it pass? We would expect it to fail in this validation, correct? Right. Because account has been created, it's not here. It seems like Testim were able to find this element, to find some other element, and they thought that this is it. So let's see. Let's highlight the element that it recognized, and actually we can see that it's probably the same layout, the same text here, but the text is different. Okay, so now we want to improve it. We want to say, let's see some other properties here. There is a threshold here which says what is the minimal confidence level required to consider the element as found. Okay, by default it is very low, and therefore it found the element which has most of the properties identical to what we wanted, but not all of them. If we increase the threshold, let's say we make it high, now I would expect the test to not find this element and the test to fail. Okay. From now, we don't even have to run the whole flow again. We can, another very helpful troubleshooting feature that they have, we can simply run this step, because we are already on the page where we expect to be. So we can simply start playing from here, instead of just waiting until the whole flow will happen. So let's play and make sure that now the validation will fail. Okay, so now it doesn't pass so quickly. It tries because there is some tolerance behind the scenes, which tries to wait. Maybe in a few seconds the element will appear, but it doesn't appear, and therefore after a certain timeout the step will fail. The default timeout is 30 seconds, and I'll show you how it can be increased if needed. Okay, so we can see that the step failed, and actually element score is too low. Means that there was an element which was similar to what we were looking for, but it wasn't precise enough, and therefore the step failed. Okay, and we can enhance this error to make it more readable for people to understand what exactly went wrong. Okay, but this is not how we want our test to be, right? We want our test to be to pass in this case. What is the issue? What is the issue currently with our test is that we are trying to register a user which is already registered in the application.
Right.
In order to solve it, what I would do is I would provide some what is the field that is unique is the email address. Okay, so right. I would build the test in a way that I always, every time the test runs, I would run it with a different email, and this way I would be simulating a different user each time. Okay, so let's go and enhance our test. Where is the part where we provide the email? Here. Okay, so this is the step where we added @email.com. Now we go to the properties of this step, and instead of providing this text john@email.com, we can do it a bit more sophisticated. We can add some random value here. For example, we can say we want to add, this is a JavaScript syntax, so people who are experienced with JavaScript should be familiar with it. I can use a date now function to add a parameter here, so it will always create John and some unique number, and then I need to replace the single quotes by reverted quotes because I'm using a parameter here. An expression rather than a parameter. Okay, so now let's try to play it again. So we start again from opening the browser with the URL, register. Let's see what email we will provide here now. So you can see John and some unique number, and each second it will be a different number. So it should always work. Okay, now your account has been created and the test passed. Okay, so now we can say that the test is ready, but actually when creating tests, I would divide it into two. First, record it because it's quick and it's intuitive and it's working. And fine, now we are at the state where our test is passing, it's working, it's not, it doesn't have a hard-coded email, it will always run and so on.
Right.
But if you are not the one, you're not the person who wrote the test, if you take a look at this test, it's not very clear what's going on here, right? There are different buttons here, blue buttons and green icons, and what is tab and what is Smith, and where does each of these fields go into which the scenario is not very readable. So let's enhance it. By enhancing it, I mean, let's take several steps which represent a single functional unit and group them, combine them into reusable components. So let's think, what is actually, if we try to describe our flow, what are we doing? Let's log out. So first, if we describe it as, like in human language, so first we go to the registration page. Step 1. Step 2, we fill in the registration details. Step 3, we validate, confirm, and we validate that the registration completed. So I think this is how our test should look like. It should be readable as if we would describe it in our own words.
Right.
Okay, so So let's start with navigating to the registration page. So to navigate to the registration page, we need to click on this triangle, click on register, and basically that's it, right? So we can select these two steps, go here to create a group. There is an add group option here.
Okay.
And then we can give it a name. For example, navigate to registration page, I even have it here. Okay, and another thing here is, do we want to make it a shared group or not? And what is the difference? Shared group means you will be able to use this group in your next tests.
Okay.
Okay, so you won't need to record and to enhance. And another very helpful reason for having shared groups is that if you have several scenarios in the same area, and something changes in this area, let's say the register button will be renamed to some other thing, like sign up, for example. You in this case, you won't need to go over all of your tests one by one and fix them, but you will go to this shared component, you will change it in only one place, and all of your tests which are using the same shared component will be adjusted immediately. Okay, so in this case, I think it will be helpful to have it as a shared group, although currently we only have one test like this, but maybe we'll in the future we would want to add some other I don't know, maybe this
Understood. It's quite useful.
Yeah.
Like you can call this everywhere because it is saved as a shared group.
Exactly. Okay, so let's do it a shared group.
Yeah.
Okay. And now we can see that we have a group here. So we have less steps here and it's readable name and it's much easier. Okay, let's continue. Now we want to combine all the steps which are related to providing the registration details, like click on the first name, set first name to John, and then click tab to go to the second place field. This is what I did manually. This is why it recorded the tab. Smith and tab to the next place, and then email, and then I click telephone and provide the telephone, and then I scrolled and then click password, provide the password. By the way, we don't see the password here because this is the security measures Testim takes, so we can set which fields we want to be to have hidden values. So in this case, we don't see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that we provided, but we have asterisks here.
Okay.
And then password confirmation, password. Basically, yeah, we can take these two together, but we don't have to, as you wish. Okay, just think what will be useful in other cases.
Right.
So let's just, as a matter of example, take these two and create a group. Provide registration details. Let's make it shared as well. And then this is the validation. Although it's a single step, but it's not very easy to understand what we are validating here. So I also suggest to group even single steps in case it can be used in other tests and also for readability. So in this case, validate registration succeeded. Okay, so now this test is much shorter and much easier to follow. Okay, navigate to registration page, provide registration details, validate registrations. If you want to take a look at some details of a certain group, you can double click into it and you'll see the steps themselves. Okay, it should run exactly the same. So it was just to make it, to enhance the test, to improve it. Okay, so we can see that now we'll have a different email with a different number and it will work because it's a unique number. Okay, so we can say that the first scenario is ready, right? Okay, so created, test passed, we can see it completed successfully. Okay, let's save it. Let's save it. Let's give it a name. Register user, for example. Okay. One done. Now, our next scenario would be to log in, right?
Yeah.
So let's log out. And let's create a new test. And let's start the same. We want to record. So we want to do the login, and then let's say we want to do it with the John Smith, John email, the user that we have, for example. It can be a parameter, anything. Okay, and what will be our validation? That we see my account here, or would you like to verify anything else? Let's see. Yeah, if we see my account, then it's an indication. Okay, so we do it again. We can do this element visible. Yeah, now we can select it. That's it. Our test is ready. Now, what we you understand how things work, and now we can also do the login and group it. Login. And provide the click email, set email, password, set password, login. Okay, then we want to do the login. Sorry, this is login and this is not login. This is a navigate to login page, right?
Okay.
Okay, and this is the validate login, for example.
Okay.
Validate login, validate successful login, anything. Okay, now this is ready. Okay, now let's go back to the state issue, because now that we are logged in, this scenario will probably fail, right? Because we won't be able to find the login element here. It's not here. So let's see. Oh, I'm still recording, so this is why steps keep being added here. So let's stop the recording and we can delete the step that we won't need.
Okay.
Okay. So now let's try to run and make sure that the test will fail as we expect.
It's not getting login.
Okay, it passed because it probably recognized the logout button, right? Because it's similar and the text is similar, but we know what we can do. And this is how we enhance the test, by the way. So we want to improve the threshold here, increase it. You see, the element was recognized, but it was recognized only at 6% of precision, which is quite low.
Right. That's why we were able to, that's why the test case has been passed.
I'm sorry?
That's why the test case has been passed.
Exactly, it passed because it found the incorrect element. So this is part of test creation. You should make sure that the test, not only that it passes when it is expected to pass, but also that it fails when it is expected to fail. And this is exactly what we are doing now.
Okay.
This is one of the best practices that I recommend when creating tests.
Okay.
So now it tries to find the login element, but it's not here. Okay. So it's spinning and spinning and spinning, and eventually it will fail, telling us that the element was not found or the score is too low. Okay. So in the meanwhile, we can think further. What are we going to do? So in order to make this test pass in any case, no matter if we're logged in or logged out, what we will do is let's think as testers, okay, not related to automation. What does a manual tester do when he wants to verify login, but he's already logged in? What does he do? He does the logout, right? So actually, if I want to translate his way of thinking, I would say, okay, I want to log in. Let's open the menu and see if the logout button is here. Then let's click on it and then start the scenario. If the logout button is not there, then don't click on it and just continue with the scenario. So this is exactly the logics that we are going to implement here. So before we navigate to the login page, we want to do something else. We want to say if logout button is here, then click on it. How do we do it? So first we do the click. Okay, we do the. So let's record. We want to add this before the login, right? So we click here the recording. We click here, and then we want to click on the logout. Let's stop the recording. And actually, we want to click on the logout only if it's there. Okay, so how do we do it? We can, on any step or any group, we can, in the properties, go to one of the settings, which is called when to run this step. And by default, it is set to always run, but there are several other options here. In our case, we want to run the step only if a certain element, basically, how can I catch it? So we want to say, okay, which element reassign. If this element log out, if it's visible, okay, if this element is visible, then it will click on the logout button. Okay, so this is the condition for our case. So it will open the triangle. If the logout button is there, it will click on it. And in any case, it will continue to the login page. But in this case, we don't need to open the menu because it's already open, right? So we can add a condition here as well. Let's see, hold on. If we log out, then it gets closed.
Right.
If we don't log out, then it remains open. So when we come to login, we need to click on it only if the menu is not opened yet. How do we define if the menu is opened or not opened? Is there anything that is always here? Okay, register and log in, and if we are logged in, maybe we can check the menu element. You see, this is a real troubleshooting, real thinking on the fly. Okay, so we can say if the element, but I first need to open the, now. Okay, if I want the whole menu. Okay, this menu doesn't matter what's inside, what the options are inside the whole menu. If the menu is there, then no, if the menu is not there. So I want to say if the menu is not visible, then we want to open it, right? We want to click on the triangle to open it.
Right.
So again, so we are opening anyway. Then if we need to log out, we log out. If we logged out, then the menu was opened, and then we will click on it here because the menu will not be visible. If we have the menu open, then it won't be clicked, and it will find the login button. Let's see that it works. Okay, so we logged out. Did you see? We logged out, and then we log in. I'm not sure if you were able to see. It was a bit quick, but we logged out.
I was able to see. Yeah, I was able to see.
Now let's see what happens if we are already logged out. I would expect this step to not be performed, and this diamond will appear in red, which means the condition was not met. Let's do it again. So it opens the menu, doesn't find the logout, doesn't go into the clicking, but it was still able to continue to the login. Exactly what we wanted, right?
Right.
So we can group this again to call it, for example, logout as needed, if needed. Okay, so we're logging out only if needed, and our test is ready. Let's save it. And let's call it, I don't know, sign in. Sign in is also nice, but we are signing in. Okay, well, let's continue to our third flow. So now we want to search. Okay, we're inside and we want to search. Let's create a new test. And let's start recording.
Okay.
The browser was opened. We are searching for iPhone. And basically we click here and this is the flow. Now the only thing that is left is to add the validation. So we stop recording. It's a shorter test. And now we want to add a validation. But this in this case, yes, it's still a validate element visible. And we want to test this element. And if you want, we can also add, we can add another validation, just if you want to have additional validation to make sure that here we also have search iPhone. Okay, so we will have two validations in this step, this and this. Okay, so this is the flow, it's ready. And what do we have here? So we click on the search button, we provide the search term, and we click on search. So we can call these three, group them into search. Search for iPhone. Okay, and then validate. Even, you know what, we can group both of them into the validation.
Okay.
Validate iPhone search results. Result. Okay. That's it. The test is ready. So we can play it now. And this is took us less than a minute to create a test. The test is stable. It does what it should. It validates. It passes, and that's it. Let's save it and call it search iPhone. Now, what do we want to do next? Is we want to do pretty the same flow, just for iMac, right? So we can start with the recording and do the same, or we can do something more, I would say, interesting. Testim support what is called data-driven testing. So if we have the similar flow, which would cover two different test cases for us based on the input, we can create a single test with different parameters. Okay, and this is what we will do now. We will enhance this test. We won't have two separate tests, one for iPhone and one for iMac, because there is no need. We will create a single flow, and this way, if something will be changed in the flow, we will only need to fix one test and not two or three or four, or how many search options you have here. Okay, so let's see how we do it. So first of all, the test name will not be search iPhone, but it will be I don't know, search, for example, something general. And here, in this step, clicking on the search field here is identical for both of them, right? Only the search term that we provide is different, and this will be the parameter. And the clicking on this magnifying glass is exactly the same. We don't need to change anything here. So here, instead of providing the hard-coded string iPhone, we will provide a parameter, which will be called search term. And now we are going to define this parameter.
Okay.
So something new that I didn't mention yet. In this first setup step, we can go down to the test data, and we can set our parameters for our test here.
Okay.
So in our case, we want to set two data sets here because we want the same test to run twice for two different search terms. So we are going to, if I'm not mistaken, this is the way to define it. So we are actually, it is returning, it's a JavaScript. So we are returning an array of objects. The first element, the first object will be our first data set for the first test case. And in this case, we will define the parameter called search term, the same parameter that we use later on. And it will be set to iPhone, exactly as we want it to be provided there. I think this is the syntax. I must be Okay, but we'll see if it works or not. We'll get an error and we will fix it. And the second one will be search term. Guess what?
iMac.
Yeah, and that's it.
Okay.
I think this is it. If not, we will get an error.
Okay.
Okay, so now that's it. We currently have a generic block, generic group, which works based on the parameter. So this test will run twice because we specify two data sets in the parameters. And this step looks good, but we also need to change the validation, right? Because currently it will validate iPhone for both tests, and this is not what we want to do. So let's change the name to be more readable, so it will be clear that it's not validating the iPhone, but it's validating search result. And here we will actually create two cases. This group will be validate iPhone search result, and we will add another group here for iMac, and we will make them conditional. We will add conditions to them. Let's see. So basically, I want to search for iMac. I'm now doing it manually, and I want to record the validation here. Actually, two validations, right? So we want to add validation. Validate element visible. We want to add this validation, and we want to add another validation. This one. And that's it. This will be validation for iMac. So we will call it validate iMac search results. Okay, but now the way it's written, both of them will be performed for each test case. We want to say, do this only for the first one and this only for the second one. And how do we do it? We are already familiar with the conditions. So we go to this group properties, when to run this step, and we want to say, we want to define a condition here. It won't be based on the element. It won't be based on the element text. It will be some our custom condition. We will define it here. Okay, so we go here, and here we can provide any JavaScript returning any expression which would return a Boolean value. So in this case, we want to say, when do we want this step to be performed? Only if our search return search term equals iPhone.
Okay.
Okay. In this case, this I'm just copying it just to make it faster, and I'm gonna use something similar here, custom. Only for when you're running with search term, which is defined as iMac, perform this step. Okay, so let's run it and see how we see the results. Okay, so first we need to, let's save it. Okay, it's possible that we'll now have errors. There is not a single time that I create a new test and it runs from the first time. It's no worries about it. So let's find this. By the way, this is the list of tests. So currently we have what we created here: register users, search, sign in, and these are tests that were here in this project beforehand. So we want to run this search test. And when we play it from here, not from the editor as we played the previous tests, it will run both the test cases. Okay. Okay, when we started running it, first we can see how it is running. So let's see that it looks for iPhone. Okay, validates, fine. And now we would expect the second test case to, okay, it closed the browser. Now, first test case passed. Now the second one starts. Opens the browser, searches for iMac, hopefully. Yes, it does. Validates iMac, test ends in a second, and we'll go and see the reports. Okay, so here in the list of our executions, we can see our local suite. Suite means several tests. We ran two tests. Surprisingly, one of them passed and the second failed. Oh, it's still running. Why is it not? Okay, now it passed. Right. It took some time to create a report, I guess. So it started a minute ago. It took a minute. 2 out of 2 passed, and we can click here and see the 2 test cases. Okay, one out of the 2 and the second one. Let's open them in several tabs, and we'll see the reports. What do we understand from the report? Okay. And how can we make sure that the test did what we expected it to do? So first of all, another very helpful testing feature is that at any point of test execution, we can go to the properties and see all the parameters that were available at this point. So currently we had a search term set to iPhone, and if we go to our second test case, we will probably see that is set. Okay, so it's already as we expect. By the way, another thing that I didn't show you, for each step, other than deletion of a step or going to its properties, there is another icon here, view screenshot. It is very helpful, especially when a step fails. What we can see here is what was expected and what appears actually. So when the step passed, there is no need to troubleshoot, but when it fails, you can, sometimes it's very helpful to see that the page didn't actually look like it should, and this is how we can know if there was a bug in the application or bug in the test, or and so on. What was the reason for the failure? Okay, so here
you can get a screenshot in a go, you mean to say?
You can get a screenshot, and you can get even more than that. There is a way to get network logs, which is also, currently there is no network logs, but when there are, it's very helpful, you know, when you want to let your developers, to give them more information for troubleshooting, you can give them the network log as well. Okay, so let's go back. We can even close it from here. And I want to show you how we can make sure that the validation, the proper validation were performed. So in case of iPhone, by the way, why does it say search for iPhone? Didn't we change the name?
Yeah, we should change the name because it's doing for 2 cases, iPhone and iMac both.
Yeah, so let's search, just search. Maybe tomorrow there will be some other iPad or something. Okay, so it's search. Now let's go to validate search results. And what we can see here is, in case of iPhone, only this part was performed, and this condition, this group was skipped. It doesn't mean failure. It means that the condition was not met. Okay, and for the second case, for the iMac, we can see vice versa. The iPhone validation was not relevant, and the iMac validation passed.
Right.
Okay, I think this is quite cool. So actually we created one test and we covered 2 test cases, and just think, if you have dozens of different search terms, you can, at very low additional effort, just by making it generic and parameter based, create greater coverage. Okay, so this is it for scenarios 3 and 4. And the last scenario is the logout. Let me know in terms of time. Do we want to continue to it, or do you want to leave time for something else? Questions, maybe, as you wish.
I think this is enough. So we can go to questions which I have to ask from you.
Okay.
Okay. So first thing I just want to know, so this tool, Testim, does it, do we need to download it, or it works on cloud?
So actually, there is nothing to download. To install Testim, there is a simple add-on to the Chrome browser that you need to install. It's a matter of seconds. And that's it. The whole infrastructure is handled by Testim. So there is nothing that you need to download and have on your computer or your servers and maintain and adjust the different versions and keep updated. They are taking care of all of this, which is I'd say this is the first advantage of this tool that I think that I can think of, because it saves us lots of time dealing with the maintenance of the infrastructure and allows us to concentrate on providing more business coverage, like business flows, our customers' flows, to create
Right.
tests, not to deal
Right.
with the maintaining the framework.
Right. That's pretty much good. Yeah. Good about this tool. Okay. Coming to next question. So, does Testim support API testing as well, or only for web application?
Yeah, so this is a great question. They do support the API. Let me show it. I can create a new test here. Let me show you. So the same way as we saw different out-of-the-box functions, there is a, you can even search here, API, validate the API, and you will see, we'll name the steps and test API, for example. In this case, for example, let's don't make it shared. So create a step, and if we open it, actually it opens automatically. It looks pretty similar to what we are used to from Postman. So here you provide the get, post, or any other method that is relevant for your API validation, and your URL, which can combine parameters as well, which is very helpful. Here you provide your headers, authorization tokens, and whatever is needed. And when you run it, here you will see the response. Currently it's disabled because the step didn't run, but once it runs, we'll see the response here. And if you want, after the step ends, you can even run additional code on the result of the request, the response. So they will return to you the status code and the response body and the response header. So you can add simple JavaScript here to return true only if status code is 200, for example, and you can parse the response body and validate different things. Very straightforward, very easy to, there is nothing to set up here, so it's out of the box, so it's easy to use. Not 200. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes, the answer is definitely yes.
Okay, got it. Okay. So do we have any integration with issue tracker tool with Testim, like Jira or any other tool, like through which we can directly raise a bug? Is that so?
Yes. I must show you something related to the tracking system. This is a great thing. They do have integration with the you know what, I can't go to the setting page because I don't want to expose our Jira of trucks, but I'll tell you just in general that you can, here in settings of your project, you can specify that the URL to your Jira or Trello, or they support different ticketing systems, and you specify your user of your Jira in this example, and you can submit bugs from Testim. Okay, so let's see an example. Let's find some test that failed. You know what? Let's just have one of our tests, and you know what? Let's just cause it a failure, for example. Okay. So we know that the search test expects to get the search term parameter. And just as a matter of example, I'm going to change the name of the parameter just in order for the test to fail, because it won't find the parameter, because I want the test to fail to show you how we can submit tickets from Testim and what additional value it gives us.
Okay.
So let's wait for several seconds to not find the parameter and fail the step. No, it's a great question. Thanks for asking it. It's very impressive, the integration with Jira. Right. It saves us time on creating test tickets. Okay, so the test failed. We know now.
Now we need to log it. Yeah.
Okay, let's do something different. sorry, just a second. I'll change it and then I'll save it. And I'll run it from here. Okay, let's run it. Basically, I think I changed only one of the settings in the data set, so I expect one of the tests to fail and one to pass.
Right.
Okay, so here we can see our local suite. Currently, the first test is running, the second one is pending. And when it will fail, there will be an option here. I'll continue to explain in the middle, that will allow you to report the failure, report the ticket through testing.
Okay.
Why is it better than opening Jira and providing all the information as a ticket? If you, okay, so this is, it failed. Okay, I can start from here. So we can target test failure, and here we have create the issue. What happens when we create the issue? First of all, it opens some similar interface to Jira, and it provides some initial information. Of course, we will need to select our project because Testim don't know which project in Jira we use and what is the type of this ticket. Is it a bug or anything else, and what labels and so on. But the initial information that they provide is that they take our flow. There should be an enter here. They take our flow. You remember our flow was three steps,
like
search, validate, search, navigate. Okay, so they've already provided it, and I think this was a very simple flow, but sometimes the test case can consist of I don't know, 10, 15, 20 steps. Instead of having us manually entering this information, what should be done in order to reproduce the flow, they simply take the flow from the steps here, from the names of the steps, and they transform it into the list of steps to be reproduced. Okay, and they automatically put it into the ticket. It saves us time to provide this information, to create tickets. It allows us to provide the exhaustive information about the scenario. And another helpful thing is they also add the link to the test into the Jira. Okay, so anyone, let's say a developer comes to work on a ticket and he doesn't know how to reproduce it, he can open the ticket. He can open the test from Jira. We didn't do anything, right? I simply clicked on create a ticket, and this information was embedded automatically.
Right.
And anyone, basically product manager who wants to understand what is the priority that should be set for a ticket, can also try to play it and see how it works. A developer, when he's ready with the fix for the bug, he doesn't need the QA to verify that the fix works. He can simply play the test again and make sure that now the test passes. So it resolves a bottleneck that QA often create.
Yeah, that's quite helpful. That's quite helpful, I would say. Yeah. So great. Coming to next question, Katya, I just want to know, does Testim only provide us record and play function, or we can code in different languages using Testim as well? Because we have a habit of creating test cases, automation test cases through coding. Do we have that kind of stuff with Testim?
So we saw that after we record, we need to enhance it. And we already saw some examples of how we embed our custom code, right? The conditions, for example, or API validations. And they basically, if you need to provide some custom code, you can always come here to actions. Let's search for custom action, shared or non-shared, provided a name. And then you can write any code that you want here, whatever you would write in your WebStorm or Eclipse or whatever. As far as I know, they support JavaScript. But you can even add here in the parameters for this step, you can add different, I'll show you an example. of, for example, if you want to perform some sophisticated steps like going to the database, for example, to validate a certain value or to retrieve the data from the database, you can do the CLI action, CLI test, and you can even add as a parameter a package. Okay, so you can provide the package to be loaded, to be downloaded from the npm, and you can do anything you want with code here. So I'd say it's not a codeless tool, and personally I don't believe in codeless tools because they can't do much in the long term. It's a nice start, but quite soon you'll see that you need some additional functionality in order to complete your test cases. So Testim support both recording. I'd say it's codeless. It's not codeless. It's a low code, so it can be recording, but it also supports full code. So whatever you want to do, and they also support exporting your tests to code. So for developers who prefer to work with code and not with such intuitive tools for like creating groups from the clicking the icon, but they want to use with code, creating functions and so on, it's possible to export it to code and work in code. But on the other hand, this intuitive UI can be very helpful for people who have less of a technical background, like manual QA engineers, for example. I can say that in our case, when we were evaluating different tools, one of the reasons why we chose Testim was that we wanted to allow our manual QA engineers who are not necessarily experts in coding to be able to create some of their scenarios as automated in order to help them save time. So it means that it's good for anyone. It can be used by people who don't have a background in programming, and it can be used by developers, all levels.
Okay, that's great. That's great, Katya. Okay, coming to next question. So, what technologies one can automate using Testim? By technologies, I mean applications which are built on AngularJS, React.js, and many other as in the market. So, could you let us know about it?
As far as I know, there is no limitation, but I might be mistaken here. I can only tell you what I experienced. I would rather ask Testim support regarding this technologies that they support. As far as I know, as long as it's a web technology, so whatever you can do within the UI, clicking on the buttons, provide editing using the edit text to provide text. Validations, anything can be done here, regardless of the technology that is behind the scenes. But don't take my word for it, because I haven't used any other technologies that our company uses. So I can check it out with them and get back to you on this.
Sure. Okay, next question is, does Testim support parallel test execution? Like whatever test we have created can be done it in one go and see the results?
Parallel text execution?
Yeah.
Yes, this is what we've started to use as well. Parallel text execution becomes very relevant once you have several dozens of tests, and the times becomes critical because you want to be able to run tests continuously, so it doesn't create a bottleneck in the pipeline. So yes, there is a way to run. I think also it's somewhere set in this settings of the project. It's based on the package that you purchase from Testim. We have 10 parallel threads that can run our tests. So definitely you should think about the logics of this test. So in case there is a test that some logics can be contradicting, so you shouldn't run in parallel tests that work on the same data. But other than that, if you keep your tests dynamic and not data dependent, there is no problem to do it. We saw here, for example, that the tests, the local suite that we ran sequentially. So once the first test finished, the second one started. But this is because the default is to run sequentially. If you want, it's just a parameter in the command line. You can say run it in, let's say 10, 7, we run it with 10. I mean, run it with as many as you have supported by your package. And then they simply launch together. Each 10 tests launch together. The first one that finishes, test number 11 will start, and so on. So it takes much less time. So yes, the short answer is yes, this is supported.
Cool. Okay, coming to next question, Katya. So does Testim support version control as well?
Oh yes, we don't use it yet, but yes, there is a way to create branches to do how to call it, to request a code review, pull request.
Right, pull request.
And merge it into a branch. We are currently not a big group of people. This is not a very good answer because we still should use I think it's just because we haven't yet came to the situation where we broke each other tests. We still haven't started using it. But yes, if you want, Testim has how can I move this here? Okay, so there is Testim have really great documentation. One of the best documentations I've ever seen. Very short, very simple, and very up to date. So anything can be looked up here. Let's say version control. Okay, so you can create branches. It explains exactly how you can manage them, how you can merge it. Oh, what did I click? Why am I clear? Okay, using branches. Yeah, anyone can create a branch. The change will be reviewed. You can define how many people will review your code, and then it will be merged into a master. And yeah, it's safe. Yeah, they do support it. You can see here.
Awesome, great. So coming to questions based on your experience, Katya. So in your experience, why one should go for automation these days?
Well, great question. So first, definitely, if you have repetitive scenarios that you need to run on a daily basis or several times a day, or doesn't even matter how much, it makes sense to automate them in order to be able to let your manual QA experts to run more sophisticated scenarios. Also, because some of those scenarios can have some human factor issues. People can make mistakes. Automation is a computer language, so it always will do the same as long as you specify your test correctly. And anything that is related to time-consuming scenarios, people just don't have time to run some long scenarios. So automation comes to help here. But before you start to invest in automation, I think why to use automation is quite it's quite intuitive. We know why we want machines to perform routine tasks for us. But we usually forget what is important before we decide to go with automation. So I use this opportunity to say that before starting to implement an automation project, make sure that you have staff who has the relevant skills. You don't have to be an expert in programming, but you should be able to understand the concepts, the basic programming concepts, like we saw the example of groups or functions, which is the more professional term. Why do we need to use it? Why do we need to use parameters? Because it's very simple to create dozens of recorded scenarios. But if in the end you'll find yourself just fixing the scenarios one by one, then you will never add more coverage. So it's important to do it correctly in order to be able. I always say when you invest time in thinking when you create your tests, and this way you will be able to save time on maintenance and keep going. Because otherwise, the further you go, the more time you invest on maintenance and the less time you have left for creating new coverage. And applications evolve; developers keep adding features, and they should be tested. And you're just maintaining your test, so you're not giving any added value. So make sure that you have the skills and that also time is allocated. I don't think that automation can be done in a spare time. Just, when you have 20 minutes, just let's add another. No, it should be given reasonable amount of time, preferably 100% of the position. But if not, then not less than 80% of the position should be devoted to automation in order to make it correctly, to be able to not only create the tests, but create them correctly. If you use open source tools, you need to devote some time to maintaining the framework, which is with commercial tool might save you some time. So automation requires time. It's not an auto magic.
Okay, cool. Okay, coming to next question, Katya, just want to know what are the best practices while performing test automation based on your experience working several automation projects so far?
Yeah, so best practices. I've released the post a couple of days ago on this topic. So I'd say think about the maintenance first.
Can you show us your post, and can you just make us walk through?
Oh, sure. Let's go. That would be easier. Blog best practices. So we can just briefly go through it, and you can maybe add this article for people to read if they want. So maintenance is the first, as it is here, but I've already mentioned it. Keep in mind while creating your tests that we should get back to changing them as less as possible. For example, the elements locators, as I said, if you have a tool which allows you to use their AI for recognizing the elements, it will save you maintenance time. But even if you don't, when you create a test, keeping them simple. Each functional unit should be a single test case. Otherwise, if you let's say we saw an example of 4 test cases. Right, we created 3 tests. We could have created 3 tests, which are 2 of them are the same flow. We could have created a single test which does registration and then login and then search for this and search for that and then log out. It would work. But if something fails in this case and you have a huge log, it's very difficult to understand what went wrong. And the shorter tests you have, the easier it is to analyze the reports for you and for everyone else. And it also helps you to fix them if they need to be fixed. It's much easier to fix a single component instead of finding where exactly in this long test we should adjust the expected result. Okay, create independent and isolated tests. Don't assume that if we take a look at our example, don't assume that if you want to create a login flow, don't assume that you are logged out of the application in the logout application. Take care of this in your test. So this way the test will always work, and you won't need to waste your time analyzing why it failed. It failed because you were logged out. Okay, so let's log in and then log out again. No, the test can take care of it. So make it independent, no dependency. And if you use certain data from the database, make sure that the test preloads it into the database.
Okay.
Another very, very important thing is that automation outcome should be reliable and relevant. Okay, if automation reports issues that are not relevant, it doesn't worth that much. If automation reports different issues which are related to bugs in tests or to some environment issues, it doesn't give any added value to your stakeholders. So make sure that automation is reliable. Otherwise, people will lose trust in it. If everything is always failing, then no one will bother to see what outcome automation reports. So it's just I can talk about it a lot, and there are lots of examples that I can give, but it just if I summarize it in one word, always think how you can make your automation outcome reliable and relevant. And if automation reports issues which are not critical to your development or product owner, then don't report them. I mean, it might be a bug, but if no one thinks it's critical, if no one has the priority to fix it, don't have it don't have it reported. It doesn't worth much. Okay, and the priorities is one of the important things, because we always have so many features being developed, and how do we even keep up covering them all by automation? It's not possible. So we should always think, what should we do first? How do we gain best potential outcome at minimal cost? Okay, so first, find out what are the commonly used scenarios by your customers. Check functionality before you check visual appearance of your application. Okay, some of the things are not even worth automating. They are easier to be tested manually. So leave them in manual coverage. Not 100% should be covered by automation. And manage your automation project as any other software project. Share knowledge. If you created some shared group that can be useful, it's not only related to testing, it's related to any tool you use. If you created some shared component that others can use, share it, so people will be able to simply pull your component from the list of existing functions and use it, instead of wasting the time and having duplicate components, and then no one knows what's the difference between them. So it's a project, and it should be treated as such.
Fine. Okay. That's great. That's great. Like one should follow these steps, I believe, as you have told us about the best practices. And of course, that will definitely help people to, implement the best automation solution. Okay, coming to next question. So just want to know your words of wisdom for automation aspirants.
I'd say that I see that quite often automation developers are usually responsible for creation and for analyzing the reports, creating the tests and analyzing the reports. And the further we go, the further I go in my career, the more I think that it creates a bottleneck, and it slows down our test creation. So why don't we change our mindset in this regards? Or even, I suggest that you consider this as a different approach. What if we, as automation developers, think about providing useful, easy to use tools to our developers and anyone else who finds automation outcome helpful? So they will be able to, like in the example that I show you, the report that is provided by integration of testing with Jira provides a report. The report can be used by anyone. Anyone can run the test and make sure that now it passes after the fix. No one needs to search for a tester to be able to verify if the fix works or not. Everyone can do it, and it resolves the bottleneck, and it will also leaves us as automation developer time to provide more coverage and invest in automation infrastructure. So I suggest to think about this little twist in the definition of automation developers, where not only in order to be able to provide as much benefit as we can, we should do what we can in order to release this bottleneck of analyzing the outcome of automation.
Okay, cool. Okay, so Katya, we have come to the closure of this session. Anything else you want to say before we wrap up this beautiful session presented by you?
So I invite everyone who has any further questions in regards to Testim or not to Testim, maybe any other automation related questions, to reach out to me on LinkedIn. And I very much recommend joining Testim community. You don't have to be Testim customer to join it. There is a community led by Testim, but it's about automation in general, and it's a great opportunity to share your knowledge and to learn. And this is how we met, by the way, and this is how this talk is coming out. So I suggest that you join there and ask questions, because this is the best way to learn, and share your knowledge if you feel like so. And yeah, let's learn together.
Absolutely. Okay, that's great. Thanks, Katya, for your time and for giving such a great session on testing, a technical one. Plus, it's great to see that you show us how we can debug our test case if we reach to any failure during the test run. And I hope our audience must have gained many things from the beautiful session gained by you on Testim. We wish you all the best for your upcoming projects on which you're working on. And we are expecting more such sessions from you in the upcoming days. Thanks a lot for your time, and thanks for being part of our STET journey.
Thank you very much, Ajay. Thanks for hosting me, and thanks for this opportunity to share.
Thank you.
Take care of you.
Same to you.
Bye-bye.